Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. I'm your host, Stephen Brody. Today we're going to be talking about tourism and everything that Greater Burlington has to offer. It's a joy and a pleasure to have with me today Michael Deere, the Executive Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Michael, welcome and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Well, just to get things started, that is a mouthful. The Executive Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
That's right.
And that is a division of the Greater Burlington Partnership.
Correct.
Why don't you start by letting us know what exactly does an Executive Director do for a Convention and Visitors Bureau?
Well, I am essentially a recruiter, whether that's conventions, whether that's events, whether we're talking sporting. In a nutshell, that is my job, is to recruit and bring attractions, things of that nature here to Greater Burlington. And, obviously we have sporting is really huge here, so that's a huge part of my focus. But obviously outdoors is also a big part of Southeast Iowa, so that's another part of the focus. And, we are fortunate to have a casino and a water park. And so in the end, we want to get people to leave their bubble and come and join us in ours and take advantage of all the things that we have here in Greater Burlington.
I think I appreciate you saying that because I've spent most of my time across the river in Illinois, and so my knowledge of Burlington and activities was the Mississippi River and the baseball team, the Burlington Bees.
Sure.
And so I think it's wonderful to then find out that there is so much more here for folks. You mentioned the casino, and
Yep.
you mentioned some other things as well. So, yeah, how do you go ahead then and help promote that to let people know that Burlington and the Greater Burlington area is more than just the Mississippi River and a baseball team?
Right. Well, it's a machine. I mean, it requires me to try to get this information out in different ways. I mean, for one, if we're talking on the sports side, there's sports ETA symposiums, which I went to one last year, and that was in Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Burlington, yes, we are a small fish, but I still feel like we have a lot of big city amenities. Because we do have the turf, we do have the recplex, so obviously that's my job to get out there and let different people know that, hey, we do have these things here, and these are wonderful facilities on top of it. I mean, these aren't facilities that are there are some that are on a decline, and I would say that we are very fortunate to have facilities that are in great shape. So again, whether that's traveling and leaving the area, I'll be going to Fort Worth, Texas in May.
Wow.
So that'll be another opportunity for me to share about the great things we have here in Burlington. And then there's obviously marketing that goes into it. That's huge as well. Obviously we got to find ways to get this information out. And so it's a little bit, there's a lot of layers to the onion because there's a lot of things happening here. So, we have to find creative ways to reach an audience that's pretty vast.
When you go to a conference, like you said, in Birmingham, Alabama, how do you sell Burlington, Iowa to get people interested in saying, hey, yeah, I'd like to come and have my tournament there. I'd like to bring my sports team to Burlington, Iowa.
Right. So I think, for me, in fairness, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more, I'm new to the industry. So this sports ETA symposium was my first go-around with seeing anything like this. So the way that everything was set up was very unique in the sense that we had pre-scheduled times that we were meeting with different entities. So Sports ETA allows you the opportunity to get on their website and you kind of pick and choose who. It's almost like matchmaking, like dating. You're trying to see which organizations would be a good fit for Burlington.
These are organizations that sponsor tournaments or
You got it.
events in different parts of the country,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So, we have to make sure that things line up. I mean, obviously, we don't, say like if there was an organization that was really thinking about like Olympic swimming, and they wanted to have access to a lot of different, things like that, then, that probably wouldn't be the best match per se. However, soccer, softball, obviously, we have the Mississippi in our front yard, not in our
That's
backyard.
got to be a huge selling point.
Exactly. So those are the things that I think we as a community could be more intentional on in terms of what the future can look like. So I had conversations with a lot of different people that was in that industry as far as the fishing aspect goes, the boating aspect goes. So, I mean, those are kind of the conversations that I was having there.
So what did you learn from that experience that you can take with you now to this Fort Worth conference that you're going to be going to?
Well, I think one of the biggest things I could probably take away is when it's time for me to schedule this next time around, again, this is like almost like speed dating.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have 10 minutes with these people, and 10 minutes is a lot to try to share all the amenities that we have, and then also get a chance to kind of get a feeler for what they have to offer and how that match could work. So I just think that was very informational for me. I think there's a lot of takeaways, but I'd say the biggest is the next go around. Well, for one, I hope that there's more opportunities to meet with more people, because this last time there wasn't a lot of as many doors open for us as what I was hoping. So maybe if I'm more selective on who I'm reaching out to and trying to meet with, maybe I'll have a lot more conversations than what I had this next time.
Do you have, sorry, Michael, do you have any thoughts as to activities that are not currently in Burlington, in the Greater Burlington area, that you're thinking, I would love to have that here? They would be a great fit for this market.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, Steve.
All right. Now, can you say that without breaching confidentialities?
I mean, I will. This is what I will say to that. And we just touched on it just a second ago.
Yeah.
The Mississippi's right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we need to highlight that thing. I mean, I say we because obviously I live in this area too, and I feel like it's kind of taken for granted, on a lot of levels. So I believe to have more activities there would be wonderful for us. And another thing that I would say is I do think that this area, from an outdoor aspect, I do believe that, living in larger cities, and I'll just highlight the Twin Cities, for example.
Okay.
That is a very health-driven city. There's a lot of bikers and runners. And I think there's a microcosm of that here. And I think the potential for that to spill into something bigger could happen for us too. There's a lot of different biking events and running events. And at the Sports ETA Symposium I went to in Birmingham, I mean, those were conversations I was having, because I think we have the setup, and there's a lot of people who like the fact that Burlington has a very hilly kind of terrain to it. So it really attracts a lot of riders and runners.
Yeah.
So I think that those are some things that I would like to see expand or happen.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get you in trouble, so we'll keep it at that. Now, focusing on the Mississippi River, obviously, is a huge draw, just the historical significance of the river itself. And we know that Burlington has been the recipient of having cruise paddle wheels, I guess, and other cruise lines coming down here. But 2022 is really exciting because there is a new cruise line that's coming.
Yes.
That's the Viking cruise lines. Why don't you talk about that for a moment?
Well, Viking is it's enormous what the potential can be. Now, obviously, it's going to take them to come, and we have scheduled dates. Our first docking is July 18th, but the potential economic impact of what these folks can have, spending time downtown and just kind of immersing themselves in our community. We're looking at doing some creative things that, will hopefully get them to kind of move beyond downtown and kind of head a little bit further west as well. Obviously they have an itinerary in place, but there will be some downtime for some of them, some of our visitors as well. So, but in terms of Viking, I mean, this is enormous. I mean, for one, if you look at historically what typically comes in our area and docks as far as the American Duchess, the American Queen, I mean, Viking's passenger population is double that. I mean, so you're talking like 400 passengers as opposed to 160, 170 passengers. So that in itself is going to have a huge impact on the community, and just seeing these folks just kind of moving around. And
so you got 400 individuals that are going to be docking here in Burlington.
Yes.
And offloading. And they're going to be here for several hours, I would
Correct.
imagine.
Yes, absolutely.
So the economic potential for the downtown and for the surrounding is huge.
Yes.
So what do you know is being planned to kind of help shepherd that along? Do you have any needs, for example, for people to assist? You got 400 people that are coming that have never been to Burlington before. They get off and they may want to go somewhere nice to eat. They may want to go somewhere nice to shop. Are there going to be anything such as ambassadors or guides or anything to direct them in certain areas?
Yes, and that's a great question. And yes, we definitely the beauty of this is as a community, this has really got to be an all hands on deck. Just a little bit of a backstory that I think is relevant to why I'm going to say what I'm going to say next. Just calling it what it is, as one of the river communities that Viking will be exploring, their passengers will be exploring, we are not contractually in the same boat.
Good job. Good job.
Pun intended. As, say, Dubuque, say the Quad Cities. Okay. So we truly, I mean, not that those communities don't have to hit a home run. They have to hit a home run. But we have to hit a home run. And I mean, like, we want to see this continue. We want to see this relationship go on for decades.
What does a home run look like then?
A home run looks like a contract extending beyond what it currently is.
Okay.
And I think it's going to take from the time they exit the boat to the time they return to the boat, it's got to be a win. It's got to be home runs flying all over the place. So spiderwebbing back to what you asked initially in terms of we have people from all over immersing themselves in our community, don't know left from right in terms of where's a good place to shop, where's a good place to eat. There are constant conversations going on. I'm very fortunate to have Chris Graham, who is our manager at the Welcome Center. He has just been incredible along this process. So things that Chris and I have been discussing are strategically having volunteers in place with colorful shirts, things that are basically like can't miss for the passengers. And these are folks that will be educated, obviously, on the passengers coming. So they'll be looking for those blank faces on kind of what do we do, where do we go?
Yeah.
And, we want people in the community, we want our volunteers in the community that are going to be downtown to be kind of strategically placed in areas to be able to say, hey, are you looking for shopping? Can I help you find a restaurant of some kind that you're interested in? So these are going to be people kind of littered around downtown, with colorful shirts to try to make it a smooth process for these guys. Because in fairness, we have to put on, our shoes as if we're the ones that's visiting the community. So looking at it from that lens, we want to make it as easy for them as possible.
And Viking's going to be here several times. It's not just the one time. So if folks are listening to this podcast and they want to volunteer, they're going to have several opportunities to do that. So what's the best way that they can make themselves available? Who do they contact, and what would be a good phone number for that?
Well, I would say you could either reach out to myself or Chris. So you can do that at mdeer@greaterburlington.com or cgraham@greaterburlington.com. So either one of those will work fine. Also our website. So you can do that as well. So there's different ways you can reach us, and even on our social media pages. If you have a heart for volunteering and that's something that you want to do, worst case, if you can't remember anything else I just phrased, give the partnership a call and they'll direct you to me and we'll get something figured out.
So you bring up the website, and social media, of course, is very important. So what different vehicles does the Convention and Visitors Bureau use to get out the message about all things Greater Burlington, what's going on? So
Facebook and Instagram are probably the biggest social media entities that we use, which is honestly, that's, I won't say more than enough, but it definitely is a huge vehicle for us to use. But I say those are the two that we frequent.
Okay, very good. Give folks an understanding as well, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, where do you get funding from to be able, because you got to promote, you got to market, you've got to get your information, the message out to outside of just the Greater Burlington area. You want to bring people in. So where do you get the revenue to be able to allow you to be effective in your job?
So grants are huge. So like the Iowa Tourism Grant is something that comes around, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say September. But that's a huge one, because that grant, having those funds allows us to be able to put dollars towards marketing. So to your point, we have to have a way to get our name out to communities beyond 50 miles to tell them about how great it is here. And then there's also, we're very fortunate. The city has been great to us as well. So, I mean, there's, I think when you think of tourism and you think of Greater Burlington, and, I said it earlier about the different layers to the onion, well, no different in terms of how we reach people. It really is some different vehicles that allows us to use dollars so that we can do exactly that. And then obviously there's money budgeted for me to be able to get out and go to the sports symposiums and things that I mentioned earlier. So it's
but
a few
we're talking,
different things.
there's not, it's not property tax revenue or anything like that. I mean, you're
Right.
generating your funds is from, you said grants. And then the other thing I don't think you touched upon yet is hotel motel.
Yes.
Right? So that is a major component.
Absolutely. For sure.
So you got to get the heads in the beds. That's the term,
That's
right?
That's it.
You get the heads in the beds, and the more heads in the beds, the more hotel motel tax revenue that comes in.
That's right.
And that comes then to help the Convention Visitors Bureau be able to market more out there.
Yes.
To attract more heads in the beds.
That's right. That's right. And we're hoping those heads in beds, we hope it goes from a like to love. And, we as a community, the numbers say that the population's been declining. So, our hope is that people will come and spend time here and legitimately like it enough to come back again and maybe fall in love with it. And it's a very doable thing. There's a lot of advantages that we have here that we absolutely can celebrate. When you start talking about cost of living, when you start talking about education, you start talking about our hospitals. I mean, there's a lot of things for us to hang our hats on. So again, yes, we want to get tourists to come here and spend a weekend here. I mean, even spend a day here. But we hope that they love it enough that they start thinking about, again, like even the housing, the affordable housings that we have here too. So we're hoping that they really love our community enough to join us long term.
You've been on the job for several months now. Have you discovered, and maybe for those who may know Greater Burlington, may not, would there be a hidden gem that you love to talk about, that you love to maybe remind people about, that maybe doesn't come top of mind, that it's like, you know what, when you're come here, you should make sure that you check this out?
Yeah, man, that's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough because
I'll put you on the spot.
that's tough. I would say, if I had to say, gosh, that's tough because I feel like I'm shortchanging this other thing that I really want to say.
No one will
too.
take it personally.
I would say our outdoors.
Okay.
I just feel like that, man, like it took me to spend time with the people that run our parks, our recreation.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I almost feel like, for the Burlingtonians, the Greater Burlingtonians
Yeah.
that live here, I was just blown away in my conversations with the people who run the, whether it's our city parks or the conservationists, how many people that live in the area that don't fully know what's here. I mean, like that was mind blowing to me. It really was. So I am so fortunate that I had a chance. That's the beauty, I guess, of starting a new job is spending time. And I'm still trying to find time to get to a lot of people, but I have had a chance to spend time with some of those folks that run our outdoors. And I mean, man, from the hiking trails to, like, the thing about Burlington, Greater Burlington is it's kind of a microcosm of Iowa in general. I mean, because you're going to find hills here, you're going to find rolling bluffs here, you're going to find the water systems are here. I mean, you want an Iowa experience or a Midwestern experience with the highlights of what Iowa brings. This is Southeast Iowa, Greater Burlington, Iowa is a microcosm of literally all of those things. So I would say the outdoors.
So there's really no limitations. I mean,
No.
It's an open book. People can pretty much do what they want to do, and they can find what they want to find to be able to enjoy their time here.
Yes, because not everybody, like I'm a sports guy. I'm someone that has spent a lot of time being exactly who I am trying to attract to come here, in one lane in terms of the sports tourism side. But that's not everybody's thing, I mean, some people want the peace and serenity of being able to go into one of these park settings and have incredible views. Like, when I tell you, if you can get out to some of these county areas, like, there are some views that are absolutely breathtaking, that are just incredible. I mean, even being someone that enjoys sports, I enjoy that as well. So I think, to your point, there are no limits. It just kind of depends on what you want. What kind of experience do you want to have? Because, again, you could have the microcosm of the city, but still the fabric of the country life that we have here too. So it just depends on what pulls on your heartstrings.
Excellent. You have not been a Convention Visitors Bureau executive director before. What brought you to this position, and what fascinated you about wanting to interview and go for this role?
So I was fortunate to be in a situation in my previous life where I was a part of the ambassador committee.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was a part of Young Professionals.
All through the Chamber of Commerce, through the Greater Burlington Partnership.
Yes.
Okay.
So I had relationships with people that already worked in the organization. So that was a huge part of it. And I just had such a respect for how the partnership operates. I think it's one thing to, to be a part of, like, the annual dinners, and I was a part of those too, and obviously working for the partnership now, really seeing kind of, what really goes into that animal. But again, I guess prior to me coming on board here, I had a chance to work with them in different capacities. The previous CVB director and I had a relationship with each other, so there were a couple things she reached out to me about to partner with her on. So before I was in her office, or her what what I should say was her previous office, I was on the other side of that desk talking to her. And, and outside of her spending time with different people in the organization as well. So I was very blessed to be in a situation where some of those relationships were already there. So so when the opportunity presented itself, I was completely open to it. I mean, I wanted to dive in and immerse myself and see if my strengths, after learning the operations of this job, if the strengths that I picked up from my other previous career, if they would translate. And because at the end of the day, I worked in a world previously as a recruiter.
I see.
So my job now is to still recruit.
You're still recruiting, that's right.
I'm still recruiting. I'm just recruiting differently. And networking is a strength of mine. And this job requires a high level of networking as well. So a lot of those strengths that I picked up in my previous professional career, again, using the matchmaking term, obviously not having the industry experience, but still having the networking and the professionalism and the recruiting background, I still felt like it was a good match for me. And obviously there's a learning curve to this job that's different for sure, considering I don't have the industry background. But in terms of some of the other nuts and bolts, I do possess, and now it's just a matter of making it make sense in this world.
One of the recruiting tools that you also use is a community guide.
Correct.
And that is something that we'll talk about that. That's something obviously that is a tool that is used to present the picture of Greater Burlington to whoever wants it. And I understand that those community guides go out not only here, but throughout the country and sometimes even outside of the country.
That's correct. They do move around. Let's see, we have about 30,000 of them that we order. And we do work with a couple different entities that help us distribute. And then obviously there's a portion of that falls on the CVB director to distribute here locally. But to your point, yes, they are in all 50 states and we're in, I believe, 9 countries last year.
Wow.
So we're hoping to see that expand even more. And there's some new ideas that we're tossing around as well to hopefully make the community guide even more impactful.
And if anybody wants to get a copy of the community guide, where's the best place that they can find them?
You can get on our website. You know, that's a way you can do it as well. You can also you could reach out to myself or Chris Graham. So we're available to help you with that as well. So.
Or if you're staying in one of the hotels, I'd imagine they'd be there too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, absolutely.
And the Welcome Center, again, that's located on the port.
Yes.
Right? And that's a tremendous resource that you would say that that's the best place to start if somebody comes in person to Burlington, that they should stop at the port?
I totally agree.
Okay.
I do. And the reason I say that is I know there's like the obvious side of like, well, you know, anytime you enter a new city, you should, you know, try to find their Welcome Center. I just have an appreciation for the knowledge that we have at the Welcome Center. And, you know, again, I'll give another shout out to Chris. Chris is just one of those guys that his listening ears are just perked up, and he will take the information that you are asking for. And I've had a chance to obviously work alongside him and spend some time at our Welcome Center and see folks that have come in and they're kind of just looking for just point me in a direction, you know. And so so in addition to his knowledge, there's some other things that we are working on that in terms of hopefully having some things in place that depending on what bucket you're kind of looking at in terms of what kind of experience you want to have, we want to be able to simplify your time here in Greater Burlington and make sense of the things that you like to do and have something in place that says, hey, how about these things then, or these things then. So yes, Welcome Center for sure is a great place to start.
Well, Michael Deere, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for sharing all things Greater Burlington regarding tourism and all the wonderful things that this area has to offer. And if anybody wants more information, they can go to greaterburlington.com and research and find out information, and then call as well. Michael, best of luck, best wishes, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And we thank you very much for being with us, and we'll see you next time on All Things Greater Burlington.
You have been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about all things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.